Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CSA Security Update. I am your host, John D. Maria, and thank you for joining us in this new season with a new refresh studio, a new platform, and some new exciting guests. Today, we're going to really concentrate on something that is radiating throughout the industry today, obviously, with the advent of generative AI. Organizations are embracing AI, ensuring applications align with safeguards is very critical. So today we're going to explore, how proper guardrails can enable responsible AI by filtering harmful content, enforcing policies, and supporting compliance, all without slowing down innovation. We hope you're going to hear some real world use cases, governance practices, and how to build AI solutions that are powerful, secure, and aligned with enterprise values. Who better to have on as our guest today is Saptarshi Banerjee. I've worked with Sapta before. He's a senior solutions architect at Amazon Web Services, specializing in cloud transformation, generative AI. He helps enterprises adopt AI and ML services such as Amazon Q and Amazon Bedrock, driving innovation at scales. Sapta created the widely used AWS Serverless Patterns Workshop, accelerating global adoption of serverless technologies, and authored GitHub code for building generative AI. He has spoken at many events, particularly AWS reInvent and AWS DC Summit, and his blogs and open source contributions continue to shape cloud and AI community. So with that, welcome, Sapta.
Yeah, thank you, John. I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, well, I always like to start out having you, sort of give us a little background beside yourself, other than the accolades that I put out there. Maybe just a little bit about SAPTA.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sapto. I'm a senior solutions architect in AWS. Been with Amazon Web Services for close to 4 years now. I typically work with our partners, help them design mission critical solutions on AWS, help them architect following our well architected principles, as well as specializing on generative AI. So I focus like nowadays. I focus a lot on generative AI. I've been working with a lot of research and stuff. I've also been writing a book, so on generative AI and agentic AI. So I'm really looking forward to it. But that's all about me. And a fun fact, I do love soccer, so I do play a lot of soccer.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
All
that's
right,
becoming really popular in the United
right,
States.
yeah.
So yeah, it's really great. So yeah, so let's get started. So yeah, I got a lot of questions here, and just curious, I guess, to start out is, why should companies think about responsible AI from the very beginning?
Right, and that's such an important question, John. I'm happy you brought that up. So, at AWS, when we talk with customers about building with generative AI or machine learning, one theme always comes up. That's responsibility can't be an afterthought, right? If you tackle it later, it becomes more expensive for you, harder to implement, and sometimes even damaging to your brand trust. So why is the reason, right? Because AI is not just another piece of software. It learns from data, it generates outputs, it can influence your people's decisions. If you don't think about fairness, transparency, and safety from the start, you run the risk of unintended bias, harmful content, recommendations, or even compliance gaps. And once those issues make it into production, they're a lot harder to pull back. So we see responsible AI as a business enabler, not a blocker. Companies that design responsibly from day one build trust with their customers, regulators, and employees. That trust is what determines whether people actually use the AI solution or will actually try to ignore it completely down the line. And imagine a use case where rolling out a customer support chatbot that gives great answers, but once in a while it also says something offensive or inaccurate, right? That one failure can actually overshadow the months of success. Now, from an AWS perspective, we embed responsible AI into our services so customers don't have to start from the scratch. For example, with Amazon Bedrock Guardrails, builders can define topics that models should avoid, set tone guidelines, and enforce compliance controls right from the application layer. And we also provide explainability tools in Amazon SageMaker so data scientists can understand how their models make predictions. And we do offer transparency documents called model cards for foundation models available through Amazon Bedrock. But the beyond technology, right? It is also about your culture and governance. That's very important because we encourage our customers to adopt practices like diverse dataset reviews, continuous monitoring right from the start. Responsible AI is not just a checkbox, right? It's an ongoing commitment, just like cybersecurity. So to answer the question simply is like, companies should think about responsible AI from the start because whatever the information AI is going to generate for you, right, and for your business, build trust and accelerates innovation. And at AWS, our role is to make sure that our customers have the guardrails and best practices to do that confidently while using Amazon Bedrock to build their generative AI solutions at scale.
Yeah, that reminds me, when GDPR first came out, they talked about
Mhm.
building engineering privacy into your product from the very start
Right.
before you get started. So that's good advice. So what are I'm always a risk guy. Think about risk-based thinking. What's
Mhm.
some of the real risks of deploying AI without these guardrails?
Yeah, again, like a very important question because the risk of deploying AI guardrails is that you're essentially letting an LLM model operate without any kind of accountability. So the first and most visible risk is loss of trust, right? If your AI system produces something different or something offensive, biased, or simply wrong, customers will notice it immediately. In today's world, even one screenshot of a bad chatbot answer can cause problems that take years to repair, right? The second risk is regulatory and legal exposure. So, in industries like healthcare, finance, AI responses are not just nice to have, but they are governed by strict compliance requirements. Now, if an AI generates unlicensed financial advice or it suggests a medical treatment, right, that's no longer just an error. It becomes a legal liability. Now, and finally, there's also internal inconsistency. That's very important because without guardrails, one business unit might deploy a cautious AI while another pushes out something more open ended, right? That leads to unpredictable customer experiences and makes compliance almost impossible to prove. So at AWS, that's the reason we designed Amazon Bedrock guardrails so organizations can define clear policies upfront, like blocking certain topics, enforcing a respectful tone, right, or restricting which data sources the model can actually rely on. But we go one step further with automated reasoning checks. These checks actually use formal mathematical logic to verify model outputs against your defined rules with up to 99% accuracy. So that means you don't just hope the model behaves, you can prove it's aligned with your policies. So the real risk of deploying without guardrails isn't just a model that hallucinates, right? That the bigger risk of losing trust with customers and regulators is the biggest challenge. Amazon Bedrock Guardrails plus automated reasoning actually gives you the tools to innovate while actually staying safe. That's very important.
Yeah, is there any like a real life example, obviously without naming names or anything, that
Hmm.
you could share in terms of, how guardrails make a difference? Because I think it's we talk about guardrails, I think people get a different view depending on who you are of what that means.
So, like something like a use case, right? Like
Uh-huh.
companies who are using guardrail, right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, there are some public referenceable use cases, right? So for example, we have two standard customers that exemplify how Bedrock Guardrails deliver tangible impact in very different industries, right? So it's also available in our AWS responsible like website, in Amazon Bedrock website, right? That we one of the customers that we had, like Remitly. Remitly modernized its customer support by introducing generative AI to answer inquiry answer inquiries faster, right? So guardrails ensure that the model adhere to brand standards avoided inaccurate or risky advice, and grounded replies in an approved knowledge sources, which both elevated, the speed and then also deepened trust among their users. And then we have also another referenceable customer, publicly referenceable Kone. So they are in the elevator and escalator industry. So they developed the AI technician assistant using foundation models via Amazon Bedrock. And the tool actually helps technicians rapidly troubleshoot and resolve field issues. Crucially, they integrated contextual grounding checks, a core guardrails feature in Amazon Bedrock Guardrails, to ensure responses rely on accurate, relevant documentation. And Kona recognized the value of multimodal safeguards as well, particularly for analyzing diagrams and manuals like documentations, and sees guardrails as a cornerstone for safe, precise AI-powered maintenance workflows.
Yeah, so I'm old school. I think about the old CIA triad: confidentiality,
Hmm.
integrity, availability, and so I think about AI and the guardrails. And so my next thought would be, you know, how do you block harmful content, but at the same time, not killing creativity?
Right. And this is also like a very like thoughtful question, right? Because and this is one of the most common questions, I think, like most people like this coming up right now, because like I hope that people will worry like, hey, you know what, if I put guardrails around an AI model, right, am I going to lose the spark of creativity that makes generative AI so valuable for me? The short answer is no. Guardrails don't cage the model, they actually shape it, right? So with Amazon Bedrock Guardrails, you can define what's truly off limits, a harmful, biased, or non-compliant content. That might be, blocking hate speech, profanity, filtering out personal health or financial advices, keeping outputs aligned with your company's brand voice. Those boundaries prevent the AI from going into unsafe territory. But within them, the model still has the full freedom to brainstorm, create, and generate new ideas. Now, a key feature here is also topic blocking and tone guidance. So you do not have to restrict the whole model. You can be very targeted, right? For example, consumer brand might allow playful and humorous language, but block offensive content, right? We talked about it in the previous question that you just asked, right? So, and a healthcare company would like to enable, educational answers, but prevent diagnostic claims. This lets you preserve creativity where it matters, while only filtering where the stakes are high. And another layer is also grounding checks and automated reasoning. This ensures that when the model is supposed to generate factual content, it's actually tied back to approved data and validated rules. That way, you minimize your hallucinations for your foundation models, but you don't stifle the model's ability to generate helpful variations or insights. So, in practice, guardrails don't limit any kind of innovation, right? They give organizations the confidence to let creativity flourish, knowing there are safety nets in place. And that's really the sweet spot. AI that's imaginative, but also respectful, trustworthy, and aligned with your values and your business use cases.
Yeah, so a lot of times guardrails too. You give up a little bit of with guardrails. There's a little bit of overhead sometimes associated with
Hmm.
having guardrails around, and we need to have a good balance of being fast, which the AI tools today are used so much. Speed becomes an issue.
Right.
Safety. Uh, in terms of Bedrock, particularly, just so we could focus on one
Hmm.
area. Uh, what's the balance between making sure that you still have this fast innovation, but yet you have all these safety guardrails and I guess well, we'll just throw out the second part of this question, which is based on that, what advice do you have for developers who want to keep that speed and going, but they want to also stay responsible?
That's a great question. And I'm happy that you brought that up because customers often feel like they have to choose. Either you'll have to move fast, take risks, or slow down and play it safe, right? And what we have learned at AWS is that you don't have to pick one or the other, right? You can design for both. With Amazon Bedrock, we give customers access to some of the most powerful foundation models in the world. So from Anthropic's Claude, Meta Llama, Mistral, others. We also have our own Amazon's foundation model that is our Nova Sonic and then Nova Premier, and all through a managed service. So it's just like a serverless wrapper where you get access to all of these leading foundation models from foundation model providers, and you build your generative AI applications at scale. Now, that's the innovation side. And you do not need to build or train massive models yourself. You can start experimenting in minutes. And because Bedrock is serverless, you can scale from prototype to production without any kind of re architecting, right? But speed without trust also doesn't work, right? And that's where the safety side comes in. So Bedrock has guardrails built in so that you can define what is acceptable and what's not, right? Blocking harmful topics, enforcing tone, ensuring your models only use approved data. We also recently introduced automated reasoning checks, which use formal logic to validate model outputs against our business rules with up to 99% accuracy. That's mathematical assurance, not just filters, right? And importantly, all of this happens without slowing teams down. So guardrails and reasoning checks are applied at the application layer so the developers can keep innovating quickly while compliance and governance teams know where the protections are in place, right? And good way to think of it is like building a highway, right? Bedrock gives you the fast lanes, powerful models, and tools to experiment quickly, whereas guardrails are the safety barriers and traffic rules that keep everyone safe at speed, right? So together they allow organizations to innovate with confidence, moving fast, but in a way that's responsible and sustainable. So that's for the first part of the question, right? Now, coming back to your next question, that's, what's your advice to developers who do not want to move fast but stay responsible, right? And that is very important because, my advice to developers is very simple. Don't think responsibility don't think that responsibility is something that is actually blocking your creativity, right? Because nowadays, I know like developers would like to build a POC, then go to production very fast. Yes. But actually, responsibility doesn't slow you down. It makes sure you can go further, faster, and safer. So when developers want to move quickly, the temptation is often to prototype without worrying about bias, misuse, or compliance, right? But in practice, if you ignore those things early, you will just hit roadblocks later. So from security reviews, legal teams, or even worse, from customers who lose the trust, right? So, how to stay fast and responsible. First, build with safety tools from the start. When you're building your GenAI applications with Amazon Bedrock, you do not need to reinvent the wheel, right? You can enable Amazon Bedrock guardrails to block unsafe topics, guide tone, or restrict to approved data. That means you can ship a minimal viable product knowing it won't accidentally say something your brand can't stand behind. Second, test continuously, right? Responsible AI isn't a one-time checkbox, right? Use features like automated reasoning checks to validate outputs against your rules with up to 99% accuracy. And then third, collaboration across the teams. So developers should pull in compliance, security, and domain experts early. At AWS, we see most successful customers form AI responsibly, squads, small cross-functional groups that review designs as they go, right? And finally, remember that responsibility builds trust. And trust accelerates your adoption. If your customers know your AI is safe, aligned with their values, they will embrace it faster, right? And which actually speeds up your innovation as well.
Okay, awesome. That's great advice. Great advice. Now, want you to sort of take out your crystal ball here now, as I call this my crystal ball section of the interviews. But all this going on, and we're talking about guardrails. Do you think? I mean, is guardrails you think is going to become standard and sort of even a mandate for enterprise AI somewhere down the road, or where's this thing going? Because AI just kind of taking a life of its own here, and we got to try to keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like absolutely. I think like in fact we're already seeing that shift happening, right? So the moment enterprises start piloting, generative AI, two questions always comes up, right? Like how do we keep this safe? Right? How do we make sure that it reflects our values and compliance needs? Guardrails are the answer to both, right? And they are quickly moving from nice to have to non-negotiable. So think about it, right? So no enterprise today would deploy an application without security controls, monitoring, or even access policies because guardrails for AI are the same idea, right? They ensure the model is powerful but also safe, predictable, and aligned with business and regulatory requirements, right? At AWS, that's why we have made Amazon Bedrock Guardrails a core part of the platform. So we talked about customers. We gave some referenceable customers like Remitly and Kone, right? So customers like Remitly in financial services or Kone in industrial tech are already using Guardrails to anchor their AI systems to trusted data. And we have seen a lot of our other customers as well. And with features like, automated reasoning checks, we can now validate output against rules with up to 99% accuracy. And that's not just filtering, that's mathematical assurance that responses comply with business policies. So yes, guardrails are becoming the enterprise standard, just like encryption or logging. They are what give executives, regulators, and customers the confidence to embrace AI at scale. And my view is that in a few years, we wouldn't call them guardrails, right? They will simply be the baseline expectations for building enterprise AI responsibly.
Yeah, so in terms of tools like Bedrock, for somebody just starting out here, because you got large and small businesses alike really absorbing this, I would imagine even small businesses even more because they don't have a lot of the resources that other companies have, but they're also at higher risk because they don't have a lot to lose. So
Right.
for somebody starting out, what would you say would be the first step by adding responsible AI with a tool like Bedrock?
Right. The first step is actually very simple, right? So start by defining what responsible AI means for your organization. Every company has its own values, regulatory environment, and brand voice. But before you touch a line of code, it's important to decide what do we want our AI to say or to generate, right? What we want for it to what we never want it to say, right? And what risks do we need to avoid? That becomes the foundation of everything else. So once we have that baseline, Amazon Bedrocks makes it very straightforward for you to put it into practice. Because within Bedrock, you can enable this Amazon Bedrock guardrails, which we've been talking for some time now, right away, right? Even in a prototype, right? With just a few clicks, you can set policies that block disallowed topics, enforce tone guidelines, or make sure responses are grounded in your approved knowledge bases. That way, from your very first experiment, you are already baking in responsibility. The other key step is test and iterate. That's very important because don't wait until you are in production to see how the model behaves, right? Use Bedrock guardrails in your development environment, in your staging environment, run sample conversations, and adjust your guardrail settings as you go. The feedback loop will help you to find the balance between safety and your creativity. And if you want to take it a step further, always use automated reasoning checks, right? That use mathematical logic to verify that responses comply with your defined rules with up to 99% accuracy. Now, for a beginner, that means you do not have to become an AI expert or AI safety expert overnight, right? You can lean on Amazon Bedrock as a platform to do the heavy lifting for you, while you focus on building applications that delight your customers. Right. So to sum it up, the very first step is define your boundaries. Use the features that are present within Amazon Bedrock, like Bedrock Guardrails, to make those boundaries real from day one. It's like putting. So that's what I would say.
Yep. Yep. No, that's great. And just to remind everyone too, I mean, this works out really well in terms of as far as AI safety, the Cloud Security Alliance, we have the AI Safety Initiative that's out there. You can go to our website at cloudsecurityalliance.org and look at that. Plus, there's just a number of AI working groups. I mean, this is really becoming something that is a continuous improvement, continuous discussion, never a lack of things to talk about and work around. So yeah, just look at that. I guess get a hold of you, Sapta. I guess LinkedIn might be the best way, right? I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to flood your
LinkedIn will.
inbox. So uh, in a bad way. And if you want to, yeah, if you want to learn more about Bedrock, yeah, uh, contact Sapta directly. I guess is there a specific website for Bedrock, or they just are
Yeah, there's a specific website. Let me find that out. So Amazon Bedrock, just 1 minute. Yeah, so it's aws.amazon.com/bedrock slash. That's it.
okay? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, well, thanks for your time. I know, like everybody else, you're extremely busy this time of year, and coming out of the summer months, things are ramping up again. So really appreciate you taking time out for the interview. We'll certainly do it again. Like I said, there won't be any lack of things to talk about as this progresses. So we'll touch base with you again. But yeah, thanks again for joining us, and we'll be in touch, and we'll continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. Thanks for hosting it. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.